All right, friends, what's up? Let's get right into the topic here on TexAgs Rewind, presented by T-Mobile. From the early top 25 teams, which teams will not win 10 games, at least 10 games, I should say? We had a couple of names out there. I threw out Oklahoma, and there were several others out there, Ole Miss potentially. I'd like to hear from you. Just comment below there on the little comment section. I mean, when I do this, you know what I'm talking about, right? The little comment section. That's what I mean. All right, we want to remind you that T-Mobile says visit T-Mobile.com/across America to learn how you can get more value and coverage through T-Mobile. So on the show, we talked about that. Top 25 teams not reaching 10 wins. We had John Adams in studio. He's got a new book, Standing Ready. All right, King Gill, good stuff there. You want to go check that book out. John Adams, class of 73, has a lot of history with the A&M University Press, does great work, and this book is awesome. We had a Hunter in studio with him. Check out that amazing interview. Really enjoyed it. Recruiting Country with Ryan Brauninger. It was okay. I mean, he did good, but, come on. He did follow John Adams. And we also had Kendall Rogers on the show talking a little Aggie baseball, and I'm sick and tired of people using the narrative that A&M dropped the game against Incarnate Word and not realizing that both schools decided to not play the game. And, oh, by the way, everybody around the country is doing this too. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people, because RPI sucks. All right, it is TexAgs Rewind. Watch, comment, do all that good stuff. So I teased it earlier. Which current top 25 teams will win less than 10 games? We're both using the ESPN's way too early rankings out there. And do you have any thoughts initially as you look down the list?
Well, I want to say Georgia, but you look at their schedule and you think, who's really good?
Yeah.
Oregon maybe, but
Oregon's in the Pac-12, so they're all bad, right? That's a little win.
Like I said, I'm an SEC snob when it comes to those non-conference games.
Yep.
So I think Georgia's schedule is just so manageable. So when I go down the list and see some of the teams, I'm tempted to say Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Let's see. I'm looking at key departures. Kyle Hamilton, that's a big one. Kyron Williams, their running back. Their quarterback as well, Jack Cohn, who actually had a pretty nice season towards the end. They did add a couple names through the transfer portal, and some. To me, they're always that team that I think they're going to be in the 10, 11 win range, though.
I would think USC.
They won 4 games last year, right?
Yeah, and there's so much hype about Caleb Williams, who, he's good, but he also came a bizarre play away from losing to Kansas. Mm-hmm. Right? With him at quarterback, he had to take the ball out of his running back's hands to get a first down, and some say that might have been an illegal play. I don't know if it was or not. But that's how close they were to losing to Kansas.
Right.
And so all of a sudden he's going to go to SC, and it's going to be this just great player. I'm saying pump the brakes a little bit.
Pump the brakes on them. I'm pumping the brakes on Oklahoma.
I can see that.
I look at Oklahoma. They won 11 games last year, but I just don't think they have. First off, I think they've lost a lot. There's still questions. Coaching change, quarterback change. They have Nebraska week 3. Not that Nebraska was any good last year, but they played everybody tight. Even all those losses that Nebraska had last year, everybody was tight. That game is at Nebraska. And then, of course, just your normal Big 12 games. Do they lose to Texas? Do they lose to Baylor? Do they lose to Texas Tech? I think they lose 3 games, at least.
You think they're going to lose to Texas?
I don't know. I'm saying between those, I think they lose 2 or 3 of those, yeah.
Okay, they might.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I don't know which Texas team we're going to get this year, and they're not in the top 25.
I know, that's hilarious, because I can't believe that they're not.
Isn't that weird?
Because they're always in the top 25. Because
come August, they'll find a way to get in there.
Cincinnati.
They lost a lot.
Yeah.
Their defensive backs, their quarterback Desmond Ridder, they lost 7 guys, I believe, to the NFL. That is one, but their schedule is manageable. Hardest game is Arkansas, and I think the rest are a bunch of,
Yeah, but they had some close games last year in their conference.
They did.
And you take Ridder and Sauce Gardner out.
Our school's identity is so tied to the events of 1922, and there are not many, but some people on campus that don't know the full story. You go into the full story, kind of helps set the scene of what they're going to read.
Let me connect just 2 or 3 brief dots. Number one, coming out of World War I, Texas A&M had more of its students, former students, and graduates on active duty, over 53% than any other school in the entire country.
Wow.
They had made front page of the New York Times. They became they were becoming a notice. Number two, this coach named DX Bible comes here, and in the late 20s. By the way, DX Bible will leave during the war and go to France, become a pilot, and then come back. Begin to win all these games. But then by the end, the game will take place. So what you're asking is so critical, because out of this, unbeknownst to anybody, traditions. If I tell Hunter that he needs to start standing up in the parking lot every day for 5 minutes, that's not going to ever happen. But if he was connected to something that meant a lot to him and to the organization he wins, him and I might go out there and stand up for a while.
There's got to be an emotional connection.
There's got to be an emotional connection. And so by happenstance, here you have a game that's barely at the last minute's pulled off. It's a fabulous game. A&M goes on to beat the number one team. And by the way, there are no rankings in 1921 and 22, no AP, no coaches poll. By beating Center College, who beat Harvard, and with Washington and Jefferson tying Stanford.
Yeah.
A&M de facto is the number one team in the country. And no one, and it won't be hard to make this connection because the sports writers made it before I could figure it out. But out of the game will come, obviously, a lot of esprit de corps and connection. The sport, Texas will get the state of Texas and the Southwest will get a lot of attention. But then all of a sudden you have this guy that comes out of the stand at halftime because of all the injuries, goes under the stands. There's no dressing room. They hold up some blankets. They change clothes from his street clothes to the Tiny Weir. That's the guy.
That's the guy that got hurt, right?
Broke his leg on the third play of the game.
Tiny Weir, baby.
Tiny.
Heine. Sorry.
Even better.
Yeah, that trumped my Tiny. I love it.
Heine. Oh yeah, big German family from the Hill Country, and who later he goes on to be the athletic director at Schreiner College.
Unbelievable.
And Lewis Newman, who has
Sweet Lou, baby.
Well,
Newman's pretty.
I hope Lewis is listening, because I'm talking to Lewis Newman, and Lewis says, well, my family sent me over there to kind of straighten me out. And so Lewis Newman goes to Schreiner College, and I'm talking about the book, and I said, these people, he goes, Heine Weir, he was our athletic, our AD.
Wow.
He was our AD, and I said, golly, tell me about him. So I wasn't able, but it was just wonderful to hear Lewis talk about him and the things that happened there. But anyway, so you have this event take place unbeknownst to anybody, comes out of the stands, and of course, the student.
What was it, John? What was the roster at the time was pretty.
They
were running short of having enough people to play, right?
This is really important in confusion. When they ran the program, they ran a picture of the team taken in November with 36 members.
Okay.
The team. I don't think they had the money to travel with the people, because
they left a bunch of guys at home.
So they only took 15.
Wow.
So they get up there with 15. Okay. They go up 6 days early.
This is Fair Park Center College versus A&M. And they show up with 15 guys.
Right. They show up
to play for the number one spot in the country.
Right. Well,
have things changed.
I know, right? What's the latest with the pool party? I know you had a little note that it looks like it's going to be scheduled soon.
Well, I think preliminary indications seem to be that it's going to be the last weekend of June. That's typically when it's been, right before fall camp starts. Everybody's back in town getting ready for fall camp, so all the current players are here, all the coaches and recruiting staff. And then the recruits, it's like they're about to start their fall camps wherever they're coming in from. And if you'll remember, that was one of the biggest dates in last cycle's calendar, was that pool party. And the A&M staff, there's some changes obviously in the recruiting staff, so it'll be interesting to see how the organization of that, if it changes at all, or if they keep kind of doing it the same. But they were able to reel in a lot of the top prospects that they ended up signing were at that pool party. And then you look at, like, Reuben Owens was there, and he's one of your top targets in 2023. Darian Gillette was there, one of your top targets in 2023. So there's going to be some carryover and some familiarity with the kids coming in for that pool party, because they've already been to one here in College Station. So I would expect, we're still quite a ways off from that, but I would expect for that visitor list to be just as impressive as last year's.
Give us a little clarity or updates on the quarterback position. You've got Eli, you've got Jaden Rashada. You've got guys making some visits, and I know A&M is in the middle of Rashada's. Is it 7 that he has?
Yeah. I think the quarterback thing is something that they've slowed way down on in terms of the process from A&M's perspective since Eli decommitted. And the further we get away from that decommitment, the less I think Eli's going to come back. Mm-hmm. I personally, me sitting here, and this is not any kind of inside info that I have, it just feels like I think Eli's going to Oregon or Alabama. That's what it feels like to me right now. Things can obviously change and A&M could get back in it, but it just feels like those parties have separated and they're going in different directions, which is fine. A&M will end up with the right guy for this class. I'm very confident in that. But Jaden Rashada is a kid out of California, Pittsburgh, California. Super talented, 5-star kid, and has his top 7 schools, I think, just span the entire country. I think Florida's in there. Some West Coast schools are in there. Obviously, A&M's in there. He'll come to campus, I believe, twice this summer. But it's not just him that they're still recruiting. Dante Moore's the 5-star out of Detroit that I think A&M will get a look from. And obviously, Austin Novosad here in the state is another guy that continues to be really high on A&M's radar, and be interesting to see if he comes to camp as well. So committed to Baylor, but obviously some ties to Texas A&M and his family, and A&M's expressed a lot of interest, but they haven't gone out with an offer. So I think there's going to be some kind of breaking point soon with that one. Like, you either got to offer now or you got to move on from it, because I just think for both parties' sake, So be interesting to see if Novosad shows up this summer.
Do you remember much chatter about this in years past? I mean, I'm new to this chair, so but it's a big deal because it's our school that's being talked about. But do you remember this kind of chatter for other programs or other schools throughout the years?
No, I think what it is, and it kind of honestly goes back to my quote tweet about Schwartz's statement, is typically programs, when they do this, will just say, "Oh, weather related," or logistics related. And honestly, I think what kind of got this whole thing blown up is Jim actually just being honest about it. Listen, because of RPI, it makes no sense for us to play this game. And sometimes, honesty can get you in a little bit of hot water, and that's kind of what's happened here. Him being honest about it has all of a sudden made people, in certain parts of the country go, "Oh, this is ridiculous," but it's also made other coaches around the country go, "You know what? Maybe we should be doing this too." And that's why you see Texas State, TCU, Liberty, Virginia, programs like that all did it over the past week.
Yeah, and Ole Miss. So let's move on. About a week ago, we were chatting, and I forgot how I phrased it, but something to the effect of, by the end of the week, it's possible A&M is in the mix there for the SEC West lead, and here they are. And you had mentioned if they end up winning the SEC West, maybe Jim could be the SEC Coach of the Year. Well, here we are, tied for first place. Amazing that the turn of events to get them here.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you're tied for the West League going into the final weekend of the regular season. I mean, had I told you that, and you told me that back after the Penn series, we probably would have thought one of us was drunk. And I think this team, if you look at the last couple of months, man, they're just a hard-nosed group. I mean, whether it's South Carolina when they're down 9 runs, or even the Mississippi State series when both the teams are kind of throwing haymakers back at each other the first couple of games, and A&M just kept responding. This is just a relentless offensive approach from this team. And, frankly, I get that the pitching has been very iffy at times, but, they've made some big pitches when they need to. It hasn't always been the prettiest, definitely not the way Nate Yeskie would want to draw it up, but they are making big pitches when they need to. So, here we are. I mean, they could win the SEC West this weekend. It's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah, hard to believe that. What has happened to make this possible beyond A&M? I mean, Arkansas's had a little bit of some issues. Other schools have had some issues. So give us the storyline, how A&M got here beyond what they've done on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I give most of the credit to A&M, obviously. But, I think if you look around the league, Ole Miss is a team that coming into the season we thought would be a top 10 team. They haven't played like a top 10 team until really in the past week and a half. They're finally playing like the team we thought they would be. So that kind of factored in. You have Mississippi State, who, really struggled all year long. As you saw against A&M, it's like one thing went bad, just everything crumbled for them. That's just kind of been the way this season is. Arkansas hasn't been as offensive as I thought they would be. And then you have teams like Florida who are hot now, but, that earlier in the season they were having some injury issues. Hunter Barco's on the shelf. They kind of took a step back. And, and Vanderbilt is another team that's just now starting to get hot. So A&M has just been ultra consistent, whereas I think a lot of these SEC teams, at least until now, have not been consistent. That's been the key differentiator between A&M and some of these other teams.
All right, so comment on the stuff I asked about earlier. I already forgot about it, but just comment, remind me. I'll follow. I'll probably comment back to you. Tell me something good about your day. I'd like to see that. I will promise if you write something good about your day, I'll say awesome or something to that effect, or I'll just say, oh, that's cool, or I won't comment at all. One of those options will happen. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about it. It's TexAgs Rewind.